Well, March 25th, 1966 was the setting for the first Trans Am race, the Trans-American Sedan Championship. Ford started out the strong competitor in 1966. They won the championship, even though it was a Dodge that won the very first race at Sebring with Bob Tullius driving the car. Well, in 1967, Chevy threw their hat into the ring, and in a huge way. They hired Roger Penske. Roger Penske hired Mark Donohue. For the next 4 years, it was Penske and Donohue that dominated Trans Am racing. In '67, they had a slow start, winning the last 3 races, but in 1968, they won 10 races. 1969, they won 6 races. Now after that, AMC discovered that, hey, if they're gonna race cars on Sunday, they're definitely selling cars on Monday. They threw their hat in the ring. Who did they hire? Roger Penske and Mark Donohue. That first season, they only won 3 races, but the next year, in '71, they won the championship with 7 races. Those were the glory days of Trans Am racing. Some of the best cars, the best racers, all the manufacturers involved. They had cars that looked basically stock, making almost 500 horsepower. These were the cars that everybody remembers when they come to an event like this, the SVRA event here at Watkins Glen. Group 6 cars, 60 cars we'll take to the grid a little later today. This morning, I get to jump in probably the most significant Trans Am car of all time, the lightweight Penske car. Well, after Penske had problems in 1968 at Daytona with cracked cylinder heads, Chevrolet suggested that they call back Craig Fisher's car. Terry Godsoe came down with him, and again, that's how they got Penske Godsoe on the front fender. It was a combined effort. Well, this car then dominated for the next few races. Now, it was actually 250 pounds lighter, like I said. Well, Penske had a trick up his sleeve. What he did is he actually changed the numbers from one car to the other. They had 2 cars. They would take the properly weighted car to tech. It would pass. They would come back, switch numbers, and take the same car over the scales again. They also did this in qualifying. They took both cars out on the track. This car, because it was lighter, was a 1.5 seconds faster. They'd come back into the pits. They had their pit area cordoned off so nobody could see what they were doing. They'd switch number and actually qualify the same car twice. It was quite a trick, and that's why Penske was famous for his unfair advantage. Well, the beauty of this car is it didn't just languish somewhere. A fella named Pat Ryan bought this car in '85, restored it to its former glory, and has raced 200 SVRA HSR events since then. The car was a front-running car in '67 and '68, and it still is today. Now, the restoration on this car, nothing to write home about. Paint isn't perfect, interior isn't perfect. It's a car that's been raced, and it's a car that races today. Does it perform like it would have in 1968? Absolutely. If you ever get a chance to come out to an SVRA event, watch for this car up front. Now, as far as values go, because of the history, this car has to be worth somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000, worth every penny, because it is probably the most famous Trans Am car ever.